Everyone is asking the wrong question about AI because it's not about will AI take my job? The real question is what happens when AI does most of your work and all that's left is how you lead? Because that's where things get uncomfortable, and that's exactly what we're digging in today. Leadership today isn't just about scaling. It's about navigating constant uncertainty, market disruptions, and high-pressure decisions. If you're dealing with chaos, bottlenecks, and relentless pressure, welcome to the Business Emergency Room. Hey, I'm glad you're tuning in. We are going to talk about emotional intelligence and leadership and what kind of leadership and style survives in this AI-driven world. And I have the perfect guest to talk about that today. With me is Dr. Bushra Khan. She is the CEO of Leading with BK and helps leaders turn expertise into influence through her lead intelligence framework and high energy evidence-based approach. She's also a professor at the University of Ottawa's MBA program and also in the technical leaders or engineering arena, I understand. And she's trusted by organizations like Google and the Department of National Defense. And her work is focused on human-centered leadership, proving that in an AI-driven world, emotionally intelligent leaders don't get replaced. They get amplified. Yeah. So all those of you who feel a little threatened by the rise of AI and what that does to our place in the world, this is your episode. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm really glad you're here because what I love is that your background is you work with everybody. Almost all the types that tune into this podcast, but your background is more in the non-profit world, right? And so you bring also that expertise to the table. Emotional intelligence is not new, but AI is. So what is kind of the new or different thinking that happens around emotional intelligence when you bring AI into the mix?
Yeah. So I am my new slogan, and I need to come up with something a little more slick, but my new slogan is the robots aren't taking over. AI isn't taking over your job. The emotionally intelligent leaders who know how to use AI, they're the ones who are going to take over your jobs. And the truth of the matter is, let me tell you, Maartje, is that my work has been, so I launched my business in 2024, the same year that ChatGPT became a household name. And I'm like, oh, what a great time. And I, of course, thought, I'm like, cool, this business isn't going to work. But what I'm seeing is that I am busier than ever because all those things, those perfectly crafted emails and the perfectly crafted slide deck that you spent hours and days and months creating and the proposals, now you can do it literally in 25 to 30 seconds. So then what sets you apart if generative AI is doing a lot of it, and please, by no means am I saying that you should only use generative AI to do so much of your work, but if so much of your work is done well by AI, what sets you apart? And what sets you apart is influence, leadership. How do you manage conflict in high stress situation? How do you bring people with competing ideas from competing stakeholders with competing skin in the game? How do you bring everyone together when shit has hit the roof? How do you do that? AI can't do that, and it will never do that. It's only the emotionally intelligent leaders who are able to do that. So what am I seeing more and more with AI is that people who are, and this is true for any time technology comes, right? Like since the Industrial Revolution, since when the first wheel was invented thousands of years ago, anytime there's a new innovation, there's fear. And I understand, because that means, oh my gosh, my job is at risk. But it's really crucial that you do a self-aware audit where what sets you apart? You writing really great emails or you knowing how to balance a budget, that's not what sets you apart. What sets you apart is how do you balance the budget with 20 different projects who are asking for millions of dollars, right? And how do you do that? You listen to what the priorities are. You listen to what the needs are, and then having those conversations. AI can't take that.
No, so, and yeah, what you're saying is if you're talking in terms of AI and the threat to your existence or your job, it's not AI. The threat and I don't love thinking of our positions in terms of competition, because I think the average leadership position, if you're in that space and you're busy competing, you're no longer a graduate, right? Or if you're competing, I think that's a lost battle already. But let's say the difference between the good performers and the average performers, and that differentiation in how successful you are, has everything and nothing to do with AI, as in it's not, AI doesn't take that job away from you.
Yeah.
It's how you plug that into the other things that you make you successful in that leadership position, and how you use AI to facilitate your job in that. But that still leaves a whole lot of room for things that also need to happen that AI is not suddenly moving into.
So what are you seeing? I would love to hear, what are you seeing around like the kinds of work you do, the kinds of clients you serve, and the influence of AI? How is that kind of blending in together?
Yeah, I think apart from the subject you bring up, but I think it's related, is I see a real struggle with who feels well placed or is willing to take the helm to really drive the AI journey. Particularly in larger organizations, I think everybody wants to do something and wants to be seen to be doing something and wants to, tune into the conversations and learn about it. But being the first one to take on a project in a larger organization, and hence also likely being the one with more failures in that space initially, I see very few people stick up their hand, and hence things going potentially too slow. Also believing, I think there is something to say for a one front approach or a limited approach, but I do think it can happen in many areas of the business in parallel. So I see a hesitancy to advocate for it. And I think that speed is of the essence here, because I think you need to get on the journey and start learning and start doing. And by waiting and seeing, you're not making enough progress. I think this is one of these things where we can learn something from others. Yeah. And I totally believe you should bring in third-party expertise when you're implementing with people who've done it. But ultimately, you're the one who knows your business, and you're the one who has to make it part of the way you work. So that I hear the conversation about the fear of the taking over my job. I don't know if I really feel that is really there, because the action is more around like, I want to do something with it and I want to be in this, but I just maybe don't want to be the first.
They're just like one toe in, not so much, and they're not fully committed. But the people who are take the action, and I love this, they take the FBR approach. Do it fast, do it bad, do it wrong. And, the joke is on wrong, because obviously you don't spell it with the letter R, but you do it the FBR approach. Do it fast, do it bad, but do it wrong, but just do it and learn it and learn from it, because that's what's going to future-proof you. And I appreciate the kind of that perspective that you're bringing.
Let me hit pause for a second, because this is where I see a real issue in businesses today. There is no lack of experimenting with AI all around. However, very few leaders are stepping up to actually lead through it. And that gap, that's where things start to break. this can do and be almost whatever you want it to be, right? And that makes it a scary thing potentially. And yes, there's plenty of businesses out there that develop solutions, right? That are plug and play. But for many of us, there's also this space we're no longer waiting to see if a tool or a system works for somebody else, right? The whole beauty of this is that if you get, and the biggest piece is this data, right? If you get working on your data stuff to get ready, then, the plug and play for what AI can do for you is so tailorable that waiting for what others are doing is not going to help you on your journey, right?
That's it.
But taking it back to emotional intelligence, because I've operated in fast moving industries for a long time. These days, it feels like every industry is fast moving, right, and volatile and uncertain, and hence the pace of change is just different. So, what is it? Because you work with leaders that grow or that go through that evolution, right? That you start operating in a different operating theater at some point as a leader. And so when you get to those levels where you are the one who should be driving these big step outs and big innovations, but that's not been part of your job before, and how do you go about that? Is that a skill that you can learn to lean into that? Because it feels like that's something that everybody needs to do, right? How do I think about that in terms of transforming as a leader to lean into those situations and to kind of drive that from within?
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. So before the show started, I was telling you that the folks who call me in are the ones who are brilliant, who are like, literally there's only 2 or 3 of them in the whole entire world who do what they do. Like they are, when I say 1 in a billion, I really mean they are 1 in a billion. And, they went through high school and university and they got their multiple degrees, and they were always an individual contributor, right? And there was always someone usually at the front who was dictating what needs to be done, whether it was a school teacher or a university professor or an academic research supervisor, or you graduate and then you start work and then you're talking about a manager or director. And they've done so well as an individual contributor. They're managing these complex, really intelligent, incredible projects. And they keep growing, they keep growing. And then 10, 15, 20 years down the line, they're like, wait, I have a team now? I have a team of like 10, 20, 30 people. What do you mean I need to now do their performance appraisals? What do you mean I need to have coaching conversations with them? What do you mean? And if I were to sum up, what I hear consistently is, Bushra, if people just listened to what I had said, life would be so much easier. And I respond, I'm like, yeah, I agree. How are you saying it? Who are you saying it? You might have that same message, but how and who you say it changes how you deliver it completely. So, and then, I get the pushback like, oh, great. Now, not only do I need to be this team leader, now I need to be their team psychologist, or now I need to be like, thinking about everyone's feelings. I'm like, do you understand, if you have a strong idea of people's biases and what their motivations are, it sets you up to do so much more greatness, right? If you understand, if we think about from an economic point of view, if you understand what everyone's comparative advantage is, by really understand like the utility of cost, that sets you apart. So when I work with these leaders, I'm really mindful of, I don't ever walk into a situation and say, hey, today we're going to talk about empathy, or we're going to talk about emotional intelligence, because you better believe I would get a big eye roll, right? So what I do is I walk in, and the folks that I work with, I have to be really everything that I present has to be evidence-based. Everything I present has to be bite-sized because they do not have the time to learn big complex frameworks. Like they need like tiny little bite size, like give it to me now so I can start using it right away. And the last thing that why people bring me on is I have an incredible amount of energy. And if you are in one of my sessions, we actually do a no tech approach, meaning if you're in my session, no laptops, no cell phones allowed. And I say, give me about 20 minutes. After 20 minutes, if you want to walk out, no harm, no foul. So I have to make those 3, 4, 5 day sessions, I have to make it worth it. So what we're seeing is that the leaders want to lead. Their Instagram, their social media is showing their algorithm where, here are 5 ways to be a better manager, or here are the 5, micromanaging myths. Are you a micromanager? And leaders want to be better leaders. Like that is, I have not met a leader who says, I don't care what people think. At least I haven't met any of those managers yet. I don't care what people think. Who cares? I've met the leaders that I work with. They want to change, and they want to change now, and they want strategies on how to be better.
Yeah, in the environment where I used to work in, right, major matrix organizations, and often in partnerships with government organizations, but also with small NGOs, right? So really.
Complex,
great
very complex.
Variation in who is all there, and you don't actually have direct lines of control. But even then, I think it's a myth to believe that hierarchy alone is going to do the job for you, right? If people will on paper then follow you or follow the directive, but if they're not bought into the how and the why, nothing happens. And that's for day-to-day operations, and that's worse or more so for any value improvement or change, because we are geared kind of in our survival instinct against that, right? And the way I learned a lot of the emotional intelligence frameworks that are relevant in the workplace is through learning about influencing skills.
Yeah,
that was the code rack they used with us to kind of say, okay, we need to teach you these tricks and skills, and you need to figure out what is it that makes something click with other people, right? And sometimes that also means that you as the leader are the wrong messenger to plant the seed simply by virtue of who you are, of it coming from you, or sometimes it's the style, but yeah, and I recognize very much in this day and age the need for gearing up on these tools or being reminded of them, right? I think many of these things we somewhere know, but they're tucked in too far away that we can't readily tap into them for this situation.
Absolutely.
Right?
And that's, I think you hit it right on the head, was that in the back of our head, we know that, we have all this sayings, you catch more flies with honey than you do vinegar, right? Like we have the proverbs, we know. If I were to ask you, Maartje, to close your eyes and tell me who is the best leader you've ever experienced. And I ask this all the time when I work with people. And guess what? What do people always say? Oh, this leader, they made me feel safe, or this leader really listened to everyone's opinions and then made an executive decision, or this leader always made the time, even when things were chaotic, always made the time to hear everyone out. And I'm like, it's really interesting. Not one of you said that the leader knows how to do a great sales pitch. Not a single one of you mentioned that this leader knows how to write an incredible email or a call to action. All of you mentioned how they make you feel. So what are you doing to make other people feel psychologically safe? Because you're right. You're absolutely right. Like we remember it in the back of our head. And if we were to bring it back to emergency, high stakes situation, let's talk about that, right? And I get this pushback, Bushra, we don't have time for soft skills. I'm like, well, first of all, that's the problem right there.
You're no time not to, no?
And your mistake right there is you're calling it soft. So you're already demeaning it. You're already devaluing the skill. So first of all, we're not calling it soft skills anymore. We're calling it strategic skills. That's one. Number two is, what are you doing? Because you don't go into game 7. I don't watch a whole lot of sports, but the other people in my house do. You don't go into a final game 7 and now you start trying new strategies. You build out those strategies during practice season and game 1, game 2, game 3, all the way to game 6. That's when you play around with the different strategies. Then when it's the high stakes situation where it's make or break in game 7, that's when you already have the camaraderie and the psychologically safe situation where now if your leader needs to make an uncomfortable decision, everyone is bought in because they know that that leader has my back. So I may not agree or understand why the leader is taking that high risk decision in an emergency situation, but because the leader has such a strong track record of building a psychologically safe team, and we know that our leader has our back, then you know what? Okay, I don't understand why you're doing it, but I believe you. And that's where our neurocognitive, so a lot of my work is based on brain science, where our amygdala, what you were saying about the fight or flight, if we think about who we are as human beings, it's always about, do I belong in this tribe or am I out of this tribe? If I belong in this tribe, I get to live another day. If I'm no longer in this tribe, they're going to kill me off and I need to flee and find another tribe, right? Like that really is fight or flight. And what our brains, although we have made so many developments, our brain, the amygdala, our fear center, still operates from that place. Am I feeling safe? So, for those who can't see, I'm doing a little demonstration with my hand. If you take your thumb and you tuck it inside your palm, you can't see your amygdala right now. But when you are afraid, what happens is your prefrontal cortex flips open and your amygdala is now exposed. So now you think everyone's out to get you. Your job is at risk. Everyone's about to hunt you and you're about to get killed. Really, the same neural pathways from thousands of years ago. So what can you as a leader do to protect the amygdala of all your followers?
So let's say the coach had a heart attack.
Bingo.
And then it's game 7.
Yes.
Then there is the same principles still apply and the roadway is shorter. So you need to show your vulnerability as a leader, right? And you can still say, okay, I know this, is not the situation anybody wanted to be in, but it's us.
Yeah.
And I'm the one who's holding the helm, and I'll be the captain. And this is where I stand. And this is what I'm trying to do with everybody. And you invite everybody in to contribute and say, this is what I do know. This is what I don't know. This is what I have to give. And you can be transparent. And I love what you said about emotional intelligence no longer being a soft skill. That is also the skill, but also the strength, right? This that differentiates us from the AI, right? This is the part that we humans will always do better than any machine.
Absolutely,
right?
And another misconception that I want to address. So emotional intelligence is not a soft skill; it's a strategic leadership framework, number one. Number two, emotional intelligence is not another way of being nice. It's not another way of being kind. It's not like, oh, you're emotionally intelligent. Can you please bake me a cake? No, emotionally intelligent folks understand first and foremost, the crux of it, the central competency is self-awareness. Do you know what drives you? Maybe money drives you. Maybe having a legacy that goes beyond the life that we are on this earth drives you. Maybe, having a really strong social media following drives you. What drives you? And not everyone has the same motivations. Do you also know what sets you back, right? What sets you back even 10 years ago might be very different than what sets you back today. Are you constantly doing that self-inventory? And while you're doing that self-inventory, and I think especially with millennials, I'm a millennial, and Gen Zs, they're very good at self-therapy talk. we are like, and Gen Zs are so smart. Let me tell you how intelligent they are. And so in the same breath, they will say, I'm having issue with XYZ person or XYZ situation. But in the same breath, in the same sentence, they'll say, yeah, I understand. Maybe they're having this difficulty, and their empathy kicks in. Okay. And they're so good at seeing multiple sides of a situation. And so my call to action is to all of us it's not only important, do you understand what drives you and what motivates you, but do you understand what drives and motivates others? And you are mistaken if you think that one person to another, that they have the same motivation. You can have the same siblings with the same set of parents, and my sister and I have different motivations. We may have similar goals, but our motivation and our triggers are different. So do you understand that people who have had different childhoods, different upbringings, different, socioeconomic influences, you better put in that effort to understand what drives others. So like, for example, again, in an emergency situation, if we need all hands on deck, there will be some people who are like, please put me in because they grew up in a big family. Put me in, I can help you. Or they grew up playing team sports. They're the ones you want during an emergency situation. On the flip side is folks who are really great at their jobs, but they don't know how to inspire others. They're the ones who kind of shy away in those emergency situations. What have you seen? Like, do you see any similarities in your work?
Oh, yes, for sure. I talk very frequently about the fact that whoever you call on when stuff is really tricky is not always the one who's on paper best placed to support you. So who you can count on, and that doesn't make anybody else less valuable. But it's very situational. I want to bring it back to your call to action, because I think we can tap into a whole other episode and conversation about tapping into people and also the generational difference. But what I'm hearing from the doctor here, from you, Dr. Bushra, is that what the doctor prescribes is that we all evolve in terms of emotional intelligence and learn. And I think society forces us to do that. It's what I'm also hearing from you is a reminder that that's the part that sets us apart in this world that's now rapidly changing because of AI, but it's what's always set us apart, and it will continue to set us apart. And what you're really saying is that you work with people who go to that transition where there really is a step change in what's asked of them in terms of leadership. But we all have these moments in our careers or in our business where we need to recognize that there is that kind of step change, and we need to spend some time and effort potentially then to really consciously work on this strategic skill.
Absolutely.
And take it from the subconscious, and it happens a little on the side, to the forefront.
Yeah, absolutely. The professor in me is coming out right now, but here's some homework for our listeners is zero in on the person who does it best. Zero in on who's really great at crisis management and what makes them so great. And study that person, observe that person, especially if they're in your workplace. Watch them. How do they build trust? How do they build patterns? How are they building relationships even before the emergency has hit? Watch them, observe them, and actually like take a notebook, like an actual notebook, and write down that information. And if you have the opportunity to go out for a coffee or a lunch, ask thoughtful questions and start collecting data and circle the different words that this leader uses, because that data has now become your new theme on how you can operate. So then when you are hitting that emergency, you're able to, it's not some like long lost proverb, oh, if I use honey, I can get more flies, but rather, oh yeah, I saw last Wednesday, so-and-so VP dealt with an emergency situation, like so-and-so, and had dealt with the client who was about to pull out a $500,000 deal, but they were able to appease the client, not only for the current deal, but were able to sign them on for another 3 years. How did they do it? Oh, right. And you actually have it written down. So that's my homework to everyone is find a mentor.
A little self-help.
A little, and
yeah,
like the books and the podcasts and the videos are all great. Find a real human being who you can follow.
Yeah. So human observation. I love that, right? Because we talked about some other things to check out and tools, but this is just really learning from human to human and seeing the effectiveness right in front of you. If people after listening here today are like, actually, I probably should do some work in this space and want to reach out to you, where do they go? What do they do?
Yeah. So they can follow me on LinkedIn or Instagram. That's Leading with BK. B like Bushra, K like Khan, or Leading with BK, B like bravery, K like kindness. Or they can go on my website, www.leadingwithbk.com, or send me an email, hello@leadingwithbk.com.
Very simple and easy to yes, very good. I think that for me the real message is that this is an area to perpetually work on, but very specifically if you're moving into a new situation, or you've moved into a new situation, or your business is evolving, consider that this is one of the things that's really going to make or break your business, and that's some pre-investing in this space, because these are skills. I've seen it time and time again in business, but also in true disaster management and in the hard parts of life, that being able to call on people in the high emotional situations, when the big change is needed, when the difficult conversations are supposed to be had in a way that's effective and works for both you and the other people, right? So not also at the expense of yourself is the true skill that drives business resilience, really.
That's it. Absolutely.
Yeah. So thank you for being a doctor in my business emergency room today.
How fitting. Thank you so much for having me.
And thank you for tuning in. I hope to have you back on the next episode. Bye now. If there's one thing to take away from this episode, it's this. AI is not replacing leadership. It's raising the bar for it. That's it for this episode of the Business Emergency Room. If you are currently dealing with chaos or disruption in your business, please reach out. You can email, text, or call, and I will find a way to connect with you within 24 hours. I've helped others steer out of the storm, and I know I can help you too. Talk soon. Please like, subscribe, and share.